Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. Just following up on that, I was out in Soldotna this weekend looking at the aftermath of the Funny River fire. This was a fire that I'm told burned an area approximately the size of the city of Seattle, so it was substantial. A lot of concern about threats to private property, but the good news is that most escaped. But there was a lot of discussion about the fact that the fire started on refuge land and whether or not there had been any level of active management. Some folks that felt that their properties were threatened were really quite agitated about the concerns that they had raised. We're going to be learning a little bit more, but you raise a very appropriate question there, Madam Chairman. I want to go back to the Chairman's question about the issue of not giving the Forest Service a blank check, if you will, here when we're talking about this budget cap proposal that is under discussion today. And Chief, I'm not certain that you actually have these numbers, but getting these numbers is going to be important to this debate, important to how we find an end to fire borrowing. And that is how many actual acres of Forest Service lands was treated in this last fiscal year. So what I'm looking for is a breakdown of the number. And I think you know the reason why this is important. You know, we're talking about some big numbers here, expensive wildfires, how we need to budget differently, including doing more thinning work and helping reduce the number of these big fires. So what I would like you to give me are the acres that have been mechanically treated, the acres mechanically treated using commercial timber harvest, the acres treated with prescribed fires like the Chairman's been talking about, and the acres treated using other tools besides prescribed fire and mechanical thinning. I think that that would be very helpful for us as a committee as we try to understand, because what I would like to do and where I think the Chairman is going, certainly with our conversations here, we want to know that if in fact we move to a proposal like the Wyden-Crapo proposal, that Forest Service doesn't now have increased discretion within their budget to go and do whatever it is that you may hope to do with that. I would like to see some real active management. I would like to know for a fact that we're going to get some treatment into our forest lands so that we can work to reduce that. So if you can get me those numbers, I would appreciate it. Let me ask, Chief, on the wildfire cap adjustment, some have suggested that the budgeting and requesting 100% of the 10-year average isn't working. The suppression costs exceed these levels. We know that. Have we looked to whether or not different methods to determine the budget requests might be more accurate? I mean, are we using the same approach that we always have been, and as a consequence, our numbers are all off? Have we looked to whether or not there are different accounting methods that we might utilize?
Senator, we have looked at different methods. The concept of a 10-year average has been well accepted when it comes to budgeting, but the problem we have is that with the changed conditions, and each year it seems like we're having a more active fire season, that 10-year average, often, as has been pointed out, 8 out of the last 10 years we've had to provide supplemental funding.
Yeah.
So the other thing that we do as part of the FLAME Act, we submit a report to Congress every year, then we predict, based on a regression model, what we think the next fire season is going to be. But here's the problem. So in FY15, as part of our budget submission, we did run the progression model. It produces a range somewhere between $770 million to $1.9 billion. And within that range, our scientists are 90% confident that the next year fire season is going to be there. So as we move forward, 8 or 9 months, we'll be able to shrink that down and be more accurate. But here's our challenge, is we're now talking about the FY15 budget, to be able to budget for a situation that's 6 to 8 months out and have that that accuracy that's really needed. That's the challenge that we have.
so
So the
if
regression
that's the
model is another
challenge,
tool.
Are we looking to other models then, I guess is the bigger question. And this is something that, perhaps we don't have the answer to, but if we've acknowledged that this one isn't working, it would sure seem to me that we ought to be kind of coming together to see what it is that might perhaps be a better predictor. And we all know that forest fires come and go, and some years you have really horrible years and others not so much. But we know that this one is not giving us the accuracy that we need. Madam Chairman, I know we're probably not going to get to a second round because of votes, but I just want the chief to know I'm going to have a whole series of questions for the record that I would like you to address. Some continue about the wildfire cap adjustment, but I also have questions as they relate to aviation for firefighting and our next gen firefighters. I also have a very probing question about the ENR float. It would not be a budget hearing if I did not bring up my discomfort with what is not going on in ENR. I was out there over the 4th of July weekend, and what you promised me last year has not been addressed, so I'd like to follow up with you.